Okay, here we've got a pair of vectors u and v, and we're going to find these various things that it asks us. One of the things it wants to know is if the result is a vector or a scalar, so we'll answer that. And then if it's a vector, we're supposed to use component form and round to 4 decimal places. So our first one we want to do is just add u plus v together. Well, if we add one vector to another, I'm just going to put a v for vector, we get a vector. And these vectors are written in ij form, and they actually have this scalar factored out, and you can leave it factored out or you can distribute it through. It just goes on both pieces. So minus 9/10 j, and then for v it's minus 5/2 I, and then minus minus makes a plus 5/2 j. So adding vectors, you just add them component wise, and it said to put it in component form, so that'd be like this. On the computer you just hit the less than key to get that bracket for component form. So we add the i's together. I got negative 9/10 minus 5/2. And so to combine those, we would want to get a common denominator. We could take this 5/2 and make it into tenths by multiplying by 5. So negative 25/10 minus 9/10 would be negative 34/10, which as a decimal is negative 3.4. Now to do the j's, we have negative 9/10 plus 5/2. So this is 25/10 minus 9/10, which would give us 16/10, which is 1.6 as a decimal. Alright, if we took v minus 2u, that will give us a vector because we're taking one vector, subtracting 2 times the other vector. Okay, so let's go ahead and write v in component form. That's negative 5/2 and then 5/2. And then we're going to add to that a vector that is negative 2u. So we're going to take the negative through these, scale that. So negative 2 times negative 9, so that'll be 18/10. That'll reduce, but we'll leave it that because we're going to have to need a common denominator anyway, and then that'll be easy to make that a decimal. So here's negative 2u and here's v. Now we're going to combine those component wise. So negative 5/2 is negative 25/10 plus 18/10 is negative 7/10, which is a decimal is negative 0.7. And then 25/10 plus 18/10, so that's going to be 43/10, and as a decimal that would be 4.3. Alright, let's look at our next one. Our next one is this double brackets meaning the magnitude or the length of u plus v. So this is going to be a scalar. It's going to give us just a number when we find that length. And we did u plus v, and it's right here. So to find the magnitude of that, it's the square root of each of the components squared and added together. So negative 3.4 squared plus 1.6 squared, and then square rooted. Alright, so let's get a decimal approximate. We'll put that in the calculator and we'll round that to 4 decimal places. So it looks like that is 3.7577. Alright, our next one here, we take the magnitude of u and the magnitude of v and find both of those and then add them together. So we're going to get something different than this, but it's going to be a scalar again. Alright, so the magnitude of u would be taking u's components and adding them together, and they match. They're both negative 9/10. When we square that, there'll be 2 of those. So I don't need the negative because we're squaring it, so I'm just going to write it like this. And so you can square root the squared, so that's just going to be 9/10, and we'll have that square root of 2 on there. So that one is the magnitude of u. Now if we did the magnitude of v, trying to decide where to put it, I'll put it right here. Magnitude of v going to be the same thing because it's negative 5/2. Oh, well, it's one of them's positive, but by the time you square them, you will just end up having that 5/2 squared, so it can come out in front, and there'll be 2 of those, so square root of 2. Alright, And so what we want to do is we want to add those two together. So in order to add those two together, we are going to again make this into tenths. So we have 25 tenths plus 9 tenths, and that is 34 tenths. And then we could put that in the calculator. So 34 tenths, it will reduce down to 17 fifths. So that's 17 fifths square root of 2. And let's go ahead and put that in the calculator. And it looks like we get to 4 decimal places, we get 4.8083. All right, now those last two, actually the very last one is in the second to last one, so we're going to do the last one first, and then we'll use that value to help us get the other one. So we're going to take the magnitude of v, that's just a scalar, but then we're going to times that by the vector u, so that's going to give us a vector. Now we've already done the magnitude of v, we've got it right here, so we're going to take that 17 fifths times the square root of 2, and we're going to scale vector u by that amount, and vector u was the vector negative 9 tenths and negative 9 tenths. So let's go ahead and get that new vector, and we're going to do it that component wise. So we're going to take 17 square roots of 2 divided by 5, and we're going to multiply that to the negative 9 tenths, and looks like I get negative 3.1827, and it's going to give me the same thing for the second component because they're the same thing, so negative 3.1827. So there is that piece, and so that is the second vector that needs to be subtracted from what I get when I do the magnitude of u times v. So I'm going to write out the magnitude of u times v, and then the negative and negative will make these positive, so then I will combine component wise with those 3.1827s. Alright, so the magnitude of u, I found that right here. That was 9 square roots of 2 over 10. And we need to take that to the vector v, which was negative 5 halves and 5 halves. Now I need to distribute that through, and then I need to add this other piece on there. So calculator, 9 square roots of 2 times negative 5 divided by 20, and then I'm going to add to that. I put a plus here, but these are going to be plus because what I was supposed to do was subtract and the negatives. So plus 3.1827, and actually that is interesting. So that gives me 0. And then doing the second ones, it's not negative, it's positive. So 9 square roots of 2 times 5 divided by 20. And then I need to add the 3.1827, and since that was 3.1827, that basically doubles that. So I'm going to get 6.364. There we have it.